Just seen that come through. So this session, if you may have heard, then will be recorded. So if you'd like a copy at the end to forward on to any colleagues, please do let us know. But obviously with that as well, if you could keep yourselves muted and your cameras off, that would be extremely helpful. If you do have any questions throughout the webinar, please use the chat function that you've got on the right-hand side at any time, as we've got some time near the end for a Q&A during a conversation with Kuldip and Steve there as well. If you could hit the next slide, Kuldip, please, and kick off the introductions. Perfect, thank you. So my name is Harrison Southworth Knights. I'm one of the senior recruitment consultants on our education team, overseeing the area of project management and business change. For those who don't know Real Education, we've been recruiting into the higher education sector for over a decade now, working with 90% of the universities across the UK and Ireland, which some of our biggest clients include, with the names up there, University of Manchester, University of Kent, LSE, Exeter, Sheffield, Portsmouth, Imperial, University of Birmingham, and some of these names are just to put a few out there. On our team is where we've got 19 market specialist consultants, all covering the interim markets of the areas of student systems and VLE, IT infrastructure, project management and business change, academic services, HR, finance and payroll systems, marketing, digital and web development, as well as BI and data warehousing. I'll now hand over to my colleague Molly to continue. Thank you.
Hi everyone, thank you for joining us here today. I'm Molly Ironside and I work alongside Harrison on our projects and change division here at Real Staffing. Between us, we typically look at anything within that project management and change space, ranging from roles such as business analysts, project managers, program managers, portfolio managers, right through to change and transformation managers, directors, CIOs, COOs, and heads of PMOs. As Harrison has touched on, Real Staffing do a huge amount of work with 90% of the universities across the UK and Ireland, and it's a real pleasure to have so many familiar faces join us here today to explore such a current topic within our sector. Without further ado, I'd like to hand you over to Kuldip and Steve, who will introduce themselves and take you through some very exciting slides that we have prepared.
Thank you, Harrison, and thank you, Molly, for that warm introduction. My name's Kuldip. I hope I've met many of you. If I haven't, I just want to tell you a little bit about me and what we're going to be talking about today. So I've been in IT and kind of the digital space for something like 26 odd years. I'm a fractional CIO. I've worked in industry. I've been a management consultant, and I've over the last 5 or 6 years, I've been doing a lot of interim CIO assignments, and I've been in the higher education sector for over 10 years. Worked with some high-profile Russell Group universities, such as University of Cambridge, Durham University, University of Manchester, and also in University of London international programs. And I'm here to talk to you about how you can use simulation to energize your transformation initiatives and get your team aligned for the transformation agenda that you have in your institution or your organization. I'm joined today by Steve Shepard, who will introduce himself in a minute, and Neil King. Unfortunately, Neil's been taken ill, so he won't be with us today, but he is kindly and happy to talk to people after the event, and we'll be sharing his contact details, and he's also left us with his client testimonial that he's going to share with us. But hand over to Steve to do intros for himself.
Yeah, thanks, Kuldip. Steve Shepard, Head of Service Management for L&Q Housing Association. I've been in IT now for over 40 years, and during that time I've held a number of senior positions within the likes of Bank of America, Standard Chartered Bank, JP Morgan, Price Waterhouse, also some experience in the public sector with Coventry City Council, and I've worked with Kuldip on a number of major transformation programs.
Thank you. Lovely to have you, Steve. We're going to be talking quite extensively once I've set the context around digital change and transformation in the IT function, and shown our colleagues that have joined us today the fantastic off-world kind of simulation platform. So our webinar is structured into 3 areas. I'm going to talk about why digital transformation has come to the fore. and talk a little bit about some of the survey results that we had from we had a webinar at the end of October, beginning of November last year, again hosted by Real Staffing, where we talked about the why and the what of digital transformation. Going to recap on that, and then talk and then tell you why that's inspired me over the last couple of years to develop and build a simulation game, which is based on a fictitious airline industry, but relevant for all sectors, and particularly in HE, where a lot of organ institutions are now embarking on digital change and getting the IT function aligned for that change. I'm going to be talking about some of the decisions you make as you go through the platform and the game, why it's important to make the wrong decisions so you learn from them, and how that could relate to your institutional organization. And then I'm going to open it for a Q&A session with Steve and the rest of the attendees today, so we can hear why L&Q went for using the simulation training and some of the impact that it's had, and the value that it's brought going forward for them as an organization. So let's start off with digital transformation. What does digital mean? It means many things to many, many people. And I've just tried to articulate that across the kind of C-suite, or it could be your vice chancellor or your pro-vice chancellor, whoever it is. Some people see it as a way of bringing about disruptive change by bringing in new technologies to differentiate themselves in the marketplace. The chief operating officer sees it as a way of becoming more effective and efficient, reducing costs, maybe. Digital marketing officer tends to see it as a way of engaging customers or students, if you want to, through online presence and better access through channels. And sometimes it's the buzzword that attracts the attention of senior people. And it varies, and it will vary in your institution what it means to you. And the message I'm trying to get across is to encourage the understanding of why you're doing digital transformation. It's a complex area, and I think it really needs everybody to understand why you're going on the change. And that's why I've created this detailed slide. And I apologize for the detail, but it's the only way I could bring it across to show you it is very complex. And there's 5 areas that I've seen organizations and institutions go for a digital change. They want to get a better understanding of their customers, their citizens, or their students through digital platforms. They want to acquire customers through different ways of working. They want to optimize their IT function or their finance function or their HR function to make it more effective and efficient and aligned to the business. Or sometimes they just want to embed a platform, a digital platform, in their products so that they are more attuned to end user usability and bring more value. Or some organizations and institutions see it as a way that they really need to disrupt the way that they're delivering their services to their customers. And that's what's number 5 there, is around business model innovation. So let's say in HE, everybody's talking about how can we deliver a blended delivery or hybrid delivery model. So you could think across those 5 areas that for HE, it could be about delivering lectures or delivering knowledge or accessing students in a different way. So that could be item 2. It could be item 5, how you reduce your facility footprint so that you need less time with students on campus compared to delivering it digitally. Or it could be about optimizing and improving professional services within your academic institution. One of all, and many of those areas could apply, right? And the message I'm going is about understanding why you're doing that change. And many people are kind of ask me, what do I think digital transformation is? So in the orange box at the bottom, this is my view. I think digital change is all about reinventing the way you work to deliver value and service to your customers, and using technology as a disruptor and implementing it at pace, but continually trying to improve that customer experience. So I'm just omitting somebody else at the same time. So that's my definition, and I think it's very. My word of caution is make sure you as an institution are knowing why you're doing it, rather than just going and following following others, if you want to say. It's complex and it requires real effort, resources, and sponsorship. There's a lot of planning that's required, a lot of ideation, scoping, architecting the future. It requires significant leadership from a change and a communication perspective, understanding your customers, your students, your academics, working out how you're going to deliver it, because you probably haven't got the skills internally to deliver it all. You'll probably need third-party managed services as solution partners. And importantly, making sure you know the why, the vision, and the operating model for the future, and continually iterating that and bringing and communicating the value that you're delivering through pilots, MVPs, and getting stakeholder management. And that is no easy feat in an academic institution, because it's a lot of the institutions I've worked in are very federated, and it requires them to be very nimble, very agile, but very coupled very loosely to get that sponsorship. I did say I was going to talk a little bit about some of the data. So some of the data that we've seen in the marketplace suggests that the investment in digital transformation is going to continue. Here's a CEO service survey that I picked up from last year that shows there's going to be significant spend in digital transformation, as you can see on the left-hand side, post the pandemic. And actually, one of the biggest drivers for digital change has not just been the CEO, the Vice Chancellor. It's that COVID has actually changed the way that we're going to deliver work and work in that hybrid model. And there's another survey which shows that actually COVID has been one of the major triggers for that change, and business resilience is becoming really important, and how technology, and I think you all can relate to this, when COVID hit in March 2020 for the UK, we all scrambled and giving laptops out and getting connectivity so people could work anywhere, anytime. So I did mention the October-November survey results, and here they are. What we saw a lot of the audience talking about was change. They said there was a lot of resistance to change, or barriers that are put in and getting buy-in, and there's fatigue and getting the support and sponsorship for digital change in many areas. The other survey result that we said is about meeting user expectations. As you can see here, this is a word cloud, and this word cloud, just the bigger the word cloud, the more votes for that expression or that word. And what you can see there is meeting user expectations, culture, and making combating or tackling the resistance to change. So that has inspired me, and we'll be talking about how we've used that this platform. Over the last 10-15 years, I've been working in major transformational change programs, and I've always been thinking about how I can help organizations come over resistance to change, how we can meet user expectations. And that's what really inspired me to work with third party to develop this online virtual simulation play. And the simulation game, which is called DTXI, Digital Transformation Experience Individual Player, it was an in-room game that we played with a set of cohort stakeholders in a room where we role played. But during the pandemic, we switched it from a in-room game to a virtual play. We've launched it last year, beginning of 2021, sorry. And we've been working with a number of organizations, taking it from a beta pilot out to the market, and have acquired a number of clients who have run through the simulation. And really at the essence of the simulation platform is to re-energize your transformation program, to get stakeholders to understand how technology is driving significant change in sectors. If you think about in the world, the biggest organizations by market cap are Facebook, Google. These are all technology-enabled organizations that use data and technology to drive their business model. And technology is is now becoming so pervasive from our desktops to our laptops to our devices that we need to think about how we continually ensure that their technology services are stable and reliable, and we continually innovate. And the game helps you to refresh your understanding of the need to align with your customer needs. And here's some screenshots that show the game, and I'm going to do a little demo for us today to just show you how that simulation game works. But it's really used to break silos down, bring people together, bring teams together, run the game in a fun, competitive, safe environment as a one-day event away from the office, in a virtual way, so people play it singly, but in a team, and learn. And the whole concept here is to learn about the decisions that you potentially might want to be making as you go in your digital and IT transformation programs, or refresh your learning so that you can go and make the right decisions. What you're effectively doing there is future-proofing your business and giving you the time to make the correct decisions from the experiential learning you get from the simulation game. In the simulation game, you typically go through this life cycle, and what you do, you're going to be a fictitious company called Global Air, and you're going to turn Global Air from being an immature organization to stabilizing it, to bringing in innovation, making yourself more stable and reliable, and agility in this sense means being able to pivot and change according to market needs and your customer needs, and building in a culture of DevOps when development operations and IT are working to service the needs of the end users and customers. And as you go on that maturity journey in the simulation game, you're having to make a number of decisions. You're thinking about your digital priorities, what to solve first, how to keep on track, what are the right compromises that you're having to make, how you show that progress through dashboards, and where do you invest? And as you, in a cohort of 5 or 10 in that one-day event, which goes over a 4 or 5 hour period, you're also thinking about what does digital mean in terms of learning to experiment, moving from a waterfall to an agile way of working, and you thinking about how to change your shifting gears in terms of your mindset. So you're thinking about experimenting. If you're going to fail the experiment, learn your lessons and move on to the next thing. And that actually shifts the gears of the cohort around embracing continuous change, which is no easy feat, especially if you think about some of the survey results that I've just mentioned around getting buy-in support for change. So in the game, and I'm going to show you a few rounds, you're Global Air, you're the transformation director for Global Air. There's a leaderboard, and what you have to do is move up the leaderboard of 250 airline companies in that sector. You have to improve its operating margin, and you have to improve its digital experience. The in-room game was developed for an airline industry, and we just shifted it over to a virtual play, similarly for airline industry, but it applies for all businesses and all institutions, because you're still going to be focused on a number of KPIs, and I'm going to show you those in a minute. You play 12 rounds of gameplay. You go through that life cycle of improvement that I showed you. You have to consider where you are based on the information and data that you have. You have to plan what strategic maneuvers you're going to make. Then you enact them, they do them, and then you reflect on the impact of your strategic and operational changes, and then assess the impact of those across 4 key KPIs. So the 4 KPIs are: 1, improving your operating margin; 2, how can you improve customer experience by reducing the revenue that you're losing for instance, and then improving customer experience by bringing in new changes or new features, functions, and releases as you transcend that maturity journey of that maturity journey that I showed you in a few slides ago. Okay, so I'm going to just quickly stop sharing that and flick over to the platform to show it to everybody. So bear with me as I switch screens and show you the platform. Molly or Harrison or Steve, can you just tell me that you can see the platform?
Yeah.
Yes, clear.
Okay, so what I'm going to do, as you can see the platform here, there's 3 buttons. There's the admin function. That's what I tend to use for managing the cohort that are playing the game. Remember, you could have 5, 10, 15 people playing the game singly, virtually, but it has to be facilitated and managed. There's a demo version which we share before the game, and there's a full simulation. And I'm going to press the full simulation. And what we're going to see now is what you can see in the background. You can imagine if you got 10, 15 people playing, they're all going to make all sorts of different strategic maneuvers. So we've got to cater for all the permutations that people make and be able to assess those impacts on business KPIs. And what you're seeing now is all the algorithms and the data that we have just firing up in our servers. And what we're going to see is month 1. Remember, there's 12 rounds that are played over 4 or 5 hours in a 1-day interactive session. We press month 1, and what you're going to hopefully see in a few seconds is a dashboard or the visual view of where global air are. And as you can see, there's a leaderboard there, and you can see global air pushing down to 250 on the leaderboard. In the middle, you can see all the live IT services. If they're blue, they're up. If they're amber, they're being rebooted. If they're red, they're down. You can see the IT infrastructure, cloud, and on-premise. There's a customer satisfaction score. And what we're doing now, I'm going to show you those KPIs. So we played out the first 30 days because everybody sees that. And we're going to show you their KPIs at the moment for global air. And we're going to try to see how that we can mature the maturity of our global air in that sector. What you see here in the middle is the kind of key concept of the game. You're trying to get the green line, which is revenue, above the fixed costs of your business. And if you can do that, you get some profitability. Here you have your 4 KPIs: operating margin, customer experience, revenue loss for incidents and benefits. And when you play the game, you have to work out the context of global air. So if I press the insight button, and I'm going to take you to a few buttons to show you where you are. This is what your stakeholders are saying. So this could be your vice chancellor, it could be your pro vice chancellor, it could be your head for student services. They're saying that as global air, for example, we're in the top 200 in the marketplace. But we're 250, we'd like to be in the top 200, and we'd like to improve our operating margin from a negative 2.3% to a plus 3.7%. We'd like to get us into the top 200. The CFO supports that, but reduce the revenue that we're losing from incidents. The service desk is saying, well, how do we go about prioritizing on high availability current services? Because quite a few of them are unreliable, and customers are complaining about online booking. Now, if you're in the airline industry and you can't book your holiday or your business trip, that's going to be a real issue for revenue generation, and the customer experience score is going to be low. You can see in each round you have $50,000 to spend, and you can spend that on hardware improvements, ways of working improvements, and that gets refreshed each round. I'm also going to show you the strategy button, which tells you and shows you all your live IT services here and what they are generating in terms of revenue per day and the customer experience value that they bring if they're highly available. If I show you just the strategy list, these are all the things that you can do. So remember, we're going to be playing 12 rounds. Also in this short demo, when you're going to do a couple or 2 or 3, you can see how you can improve the quality of your code, how you can improve the speed of flow of information for introducing continuous integration, continuous development, and agile ways of working. How can you improve the service of existing services through better instant problem and change management, and improving your existing services through hardware upgrades, software upgrades, and they all have a value associated with them. Remember, you've only got 50,000 to spend. Now, in terms of doing a demo, I'm going to take you through the happy path. I've played this game many, many times. And what I'm going to try to show you is what I would do to get the best learning or get a better high score. And I'll explain to you at the end of round 3 how I would bring that learning to bear to the people who attend this session. So if I went back to my reports screen at the beginning, where you can see that we're 250th, operating margins low, customer experience is low. I need to really understand where I am in terms of service performance. So what I would press here is the service performance button and start purchasing an availability report, which costs me 20,000. And I would do that because I need to understand what's up or what's down. Because if you remember from what the insights button then was saying, that customers don't know what's working, and some things are available, some things aren't. I'm going to filter these services, these live services, according to the revenue they generate. And you can see the online booking system, for example, should generate 180,000, but it's only generating 40,000. So it's saying it's only 40% available. But that doesn't tell me the root cause of the problem. So when I press problem management, which costs me 15,000, that's going to give me insight to what the actual problem is with the online booking system. Again, I'm going to filter my services according to the highest in terms of their revenue generation. And what it's telling me is that the online booking system has 3 software problems. The payment system has 2 software problems. The ticketing platform has 2 hardware problems. So I'm now armed with some information which has come through creating some reports or purchasing reports, which, like in a real life, is about getting information, like some external consultancy to tell me what my problems in my organization are, and so I can make some fixes or changes that I need to do. So we're armed with that information. I'm going to go to the strategy button to play month 2. I know, again, I'm going to filter according to my most revenue generating services. I know from root cause analysis that my online booking system has a problem with software, and I'm going to purchase it an software upgrade, or V2, by ticking that box, and I've spent my 50,000 for the round. The other thing I'm going to do, and if you remember in the insights button, it talked about prioritization, and I'm going to prioritize my highest customer facing revenue generating services as high priority. And you would do this because you want to make sure that you focus on things that are going to give you maximum benefit for your institution or your organization. Why would you spend lots of money fixing the HR system? Because it's not customer facing in this scenario. It's a lower priority. It's something that you would do, but it's not the highest priority. Then in anything that generates 50,000 or above, I'm going to make a medium priority. So we've got some prioritization going on, and we've got an upgrade going on. Now I'm going to, by pressing save and play month 2, I'm going to, those strategic and operational changes I've made, I'm going to go and see the impact of those changes on my business KPIs. And let's see how that, what's happening now is those algorithms with all those changes I've made are working their way through, and and as the screen pops up, you'll see the number of days of the month 2 shooting up, and we'll be able to see the impact of them on those 4 KPIs that we mentioned. And we were 250th in the leaderboard. What you'll be able to see is Global Air is now shooting up the leaderboard. You can see how the number of incidents might have dropped, and hopefully the customer experience has gone up. And after 30 days, what we're going to see is the impact of those changes on my KPIs. And what you can see here is that the operating margin was minus 2.3. We've gone to a plus 2.3. Our customer satisfaction has gone up. And the reason that has gone up is because we've reduced the revenue we're losing it through instance. And why is the revenue dropped from instance? Because we fixed the online booking system. We did a software upgrade. We haven't introduced any new services, but you can see that we shot up from 250th to 211th in the leaderboard. That's not that's just round one. Oh, we've done 2 rounds. I'm going to play round 3 because I know there's lots of other things to fix still. I go back into my live services. I again filter again on my most critical facing and high revenue generating services. You can see the online booking is now 100% available because we fixed the software problems in it. I'm going to now do the next changes. Our revenue or budget for the round has been refreshed. We've got another 50,000 to spend. I am going to fix the software problems in my payment system, and then I'm going to fix the hardware problems I can see in my ticketing platform. The reason I'm picking them is they're the most likely, most revenue generating, and secondly, I can see that they're not as highly available as they should be. So if I go back to my strategy button and I filter again, I'm going to pick up my payments as do it. I got 50,000. I'm going to spend 15,000 on a software upgrade for payments. On the ticketing platform, I'm going to upgrade the software, and hardware upgrade is all about putting in failover and disaster recovery. So I've spent 40k of the 50. I know, because I know the happy path. You can't buy anything for 10k and less. And I'm going to save and play month 3. And what we're going to do again is watch the impact of those changes, those operational strategic changes on global air in the sector against those business KPIs. So let's see those impact. Again, what we've got here is that those changes I've made are working their way through the algorithms of the simulation game. And when the screen pops up, you'll see the 30 days being played out for month 3. And what you can see now is we were 211th. We're going up the leaderboard. We're shooting up to 200. Remember, the number of instances was about 42. I think hopefully that has dropped because we put in some software and hardware upgrades. 30 days have passed. Let's have a look at our KPIs. Operating margin. Remember the target for Q1, the target that Global Air had was it to be 3.7%. We've beaten that target. We've taken it above that to 4.6%. Our customer satisfaction score's gone up. We were trying to reduce the revenue we're losing per month below 5.5 million. Remember, that's what the CFO said. That's your target, and we've done that. And we were trying to get in the top 200 of the leaderboard, and we smashed into being 193. And all I've just shown you is how 3 rounds of gameplay. We have 12 rounds. What I would do at this stage is bring the cohort, because remember, each individual would have been coached and mentored and facilitated to play the game, those 3 rounds. I would bring them all together, and we have a discussion about five or six areas. And those areas are, well, how important it was for Global Air to have purpose, intent, and strategy. They knew where they were going, what the intent for Q1 was. Second thing, how important it is to ensure that you have dashboards and KPIs to show you the progress of your changes and the impact that it has on business. Learning point 3 is how important it is to do proper root cause analysis to understand your root causes of problems so you can fix them at root. And the 4th learning point is in making sure that you have data that gives you information and insight to where you are at any one point. And those 4 or 5 learning points for Q1, we would discuss those. I would pick on somebody who's done really well so that they can walk through why they've done really well. And the ones who haven't done so well, they will learn from the person who's done so well. And those learning points, I've kind of taken them through. And then we would have a discussion about how you can apply those learning points to your organization. Do you have clear purpose, strategy, intent? Are you focused on customer centricity and the value that you add to business and your end users and your customers? So that's really kind of key. So if I just stop sharing there, I'm just going to try to bring this together back into my slides. And Harrison, maybe can you see my slides? Yeah. So I've only played 3 rounds. In the simulation game, you do 12 rounds. We bring in concepts of enhanced stability. We introduce how you can do channel shift for optimizing your service desk. We bring in concepts of how you move from waterfall to agile. How do you bring in pipelines of changes and faster, smaller increments? How you then get development operations to work together. And this is how your KPIs should trend as you go through each round. So that as you mature global air from becoming stable to becoming agile and bringing that DevOps culture. And the progression that happens in terms of capability, you can see through this plot. The top plot there shows you your operating margin by month. And what you've done as you go through that experiential learning, you built in capability around incident management, problem management, service continuity management. Then you stabilized, used knowledge management to bring in self-service. Then you've brought in new services and made sure that they work in a fast, efficient manner in an agile, customer-centric way, but ensuring quality and value. So you start growing the business. You only grow the business once you've stabilized it, then you can pivot and adjust to your customer needs as you continue through this simulation. As a quick summary of the simulation, it's about engaging IT and the business to work together. It's about focusing customer centricity, how to become an agile organization, how to bring services into the market with speed, but ensuring quality, reducing your overall risk exposure, becoming more effective and efficient, while making sure that your business is stable and resilient. And that is applicable to all institutions and organizations around the world. I feel I've been talking a lot, and I think at this stage, I would really appreciate it if I could bring in Steve Shepard to start our Q&A discussion about why L&Q went for the simulation training.
Yeah, thanks, Kuldip. Just some background to start with on L&Q Housing Association and why we saw the simulation training as an important vehicle for developing the organization. L&Q has grown very quickly. It's grown by acquisition, it's grown organically, far too quickly for all of the people, processes and technology to keep up. And essentially we were setting out to build a new IT services organization from scratch. And there were a number of challenges. We had very siloed working. If we look across the IT towers, so cloud infrastructure engineering, information security, service management, business applications, everybody was doing their own thing with their own processes, their own goals. There was a complete lack of engagement with the business as well. And I'll mention it now, my tip for the day, in case I forget at the end. When you embark on the simulation training, make sure the business is engaged. You'll find it's invaluable, okay? And so looking at the track record of L&Q, so I was actually brought in to address some of these fundamental issues. There's a really poor track record on delivery. They weren't delivering on time. They weren't delivering within budget. They weren't delivering to the complete satisfaction of the business. And that was something that really needed to be addressed and addressed quickly. And the simulation training very much focuses on these issues and helps bring all parts of the IT organization together. There are certain processes we work to, whether it's BizApps or service management, that sometimes seem in conflict. So from a service management perspective, the key frameworks and processes are IT service management, ITSM and ITIL version 4. BizApps as an organization, we're adopting agile and DevOps ways of working. And I could speak to 10 people within BizApps. They'd all have a different opinion on what agile and DevOps frameworks actually were and how they work in practice. What they didn't appreciate was that DevOps leverages the ITSM and ITIL frameworks. They're not conflicting frameworks. They're very complementary. And whereas previously ITSM and ITIL was seen as very bureaucratic, presenting significant hurdles for the development organization. At the end of the transformation, and particularly with the help of the simulation training, everyone had a far better appreciation of the challenges we all faced as an organization, and how adopting and integrating these frameworks could bring us all together and make us a more competent IT services organization. And that's been taking place over the last 18 months or so. And we've made fantastic strides. As an example, when I joined, we deployed or attempted to deploy a new telephony system. I was given 24 hours notice that it was going in. The business phoned me and asked if we were actually ready. There'd been no notification at all. And that's pitiful when, you're in that position. Now, we've addressed some of those fundamental processes that were lacking, and particularly demand management. So even when a new initiative, a new product, a new service is a twinkle in the eye of the business, the IT organization is engaged. We're given an opportunity to challenge from a funding perspective, as for instance, do we have funding for the resources, the training? Has the business factored in simple things such as business continuity, disaster recovery, failover capability? Because of that lack of engagement, we had the business going out, engaging with third parties, presenting their incumbent IT organization with a fait accompli, not really taking into consideration the overall architectural drivers or considerations for the new product they were looking to launch. Now we have that engagement with the business at the demand management phase and the technology towers. We can make sure that the funding and all those other considerations are addressed before we embark on a major initiative, on a major project. And at the end of the solution delivery life cycle, when it comes to transition management, we were in a position to make sure that when something went into production, something new, a new product or service, that the service management team, supported at the second and third layers by cloud infrastructure engineering, they were fully equipped to support the service and provide the quality of service that our customers and the end user community were actually looking for. And Kuldip will ensure that a lot of these things are addressed head on during the simulation exercise. Everyone's engaged in the discussions, and coming out at the end of the simulation, I say everyone's got a far better appreciation of what the challenges are that we all face. And just to say, we put the entire organization through this. Most recently, we've been engaging the business in these simulations as well, and they've really benefited from it and been really appreciative that they've been engaged. Sorry,
thank you, Steve. Thank you for that introduction, Steve. I'm just wondering if you could just elaborate a little bit on a couple of kind of maybe pick up on 2 or 3 areas that the simulation has helped in terms of change mindset or team dynamics. What value did it bring for cross-team collaboration, and then aligning maybe say folks in the infrastructure team with the impact that they potentially could have with the business? How did that manifest itself in the simulation training?
Well, ultimately, what I can only come at that question from the perspective of what was I trying to achieve. I was looking for common processes, disciplines, standards, processes that you would typically expect to find in, say, a world-class IT services organization. So we were able to engage and ensure everybody had the appreciation of the processes we were working to, and how those processes could be integrated and automated to make the entire end-to-end solution delivery lifecycle more effective, more efficient, and delivering higher quality solutions for the business. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I think if you remember in some of the simulation training, we had people from BizApps and infrastructure team. And one of the things I remember them saying to me was, well, look, it really gives us an appreciation of the full IT ecosystem, because you can very easily be stuck in your application world or your infrastructure world, or you in the business. But the simulation allows you to understand where you fit in within that ecosystem and the impact that you can have on not the delivery of IT services, but then the impact of and if you make the right changes to the way you work, the impact that it can have on the business or the institution as a whole and your end users. I'm wondering if you can, any thoughts around how that played out in the simulation?
Yeah, it's obviously it's a theoretical exercise, but it's easily relatable to the practical day-to-day considerations and challenges that we have. And I think the important thing to emphasize is that all 4 towers of the organization their challenges are represented within the simulation exercise, and we have the opportunity to discuss with our peer groups how we can overcome some of those particular issues. I mean, from a service management perspective, I always come at it from a view of when I get that call at 2 o'clock in the morning to hear that everything's collapsed. What do we do? I mean, we had no business continuity. We had no disaster recovery. I wasn't sure what the failover capability was. I didn't know what the recovery point objectives were, the recovery time objectives. All of the, I mean, they're simple considerations for, those are sort of very experienced in the IT industry. And yet these obvious things are so often missed in organizations today. And it's making sure those basics are covered such that, when you do deliver a new product, all those bases are covered. And you've got a far more robust solution that's production ready and able to support the business.
Yeah.
And that's from a service management perspective.
And
just to add,
yeah, sure.
where we got a better appreciation from a BizApps perspective, there is some bureaucracy with ITSM and ITIL. If we look at the change advisory board, change management, release and deployment management, even the demand management process, which is meant to benefit all of us. But working together, we can provide a lot of automation and streamlining of those processes, which we've particularly done where change management's concerned. So a lot of changes just pass through now. It doesn't actually need any human intervention. So, I mean, obviously my focus is ITSM, ITIL service management. That can cover around 40 processes or so. And it just sounds like bureaucracy, but it isn't. If it's deployed effectively and it leverages the best of DevOps and vice versa, you can find really significant improvements and efficiencies there.
Yeah, thank you for that, Steve. I wanted to also, I do have another burning question for you, but I'm going to ask it by looking at the testimonial that Neil King has provided. So Neil sits in the service management office at the University of Cambridge, and he obviously was a bit apprehensive about running the simulation training as well. But as you can, I'll let people read the testimonial there. But he ran it with his service management team, and what he was saying to me was that what it allowed them to do is think out the box a little bit, think about what best practice is for IT functions and departments, and how IT then has an impact on your organization if you don't deliver on time, on quality, and in a way that's engaging the customer. So as you can see there, some of the feedback that certainly I got with running it with Neil and his team at UIS in Cambridge was that it allowed them to really appreciate that you can sometimes fail. Try something, fail, learn the lessons, but move on quickly. And it's changed their mindset about how to approach work. And it drove the right conversations for them to start thinking about where could they make some incremental improvements and actually have a wider discussions around change in UIS there. And I was wondering, Steve, has the simulation training, because what you've been doing is taking simulation training right across the IT function and into the business, has it brought people together and broken those silos and those barriers, so people now can appreciate and understand what we need to do to become more effective and efficient as an organization?
Yeah, and certainly it drew our attention to the fact that it wasn't just simply processes and frameworks that were lacking. We had to take a fresh look at our entire target operating model. Yeah, we really had to learn some fundamental lessons there. And we brought in consultants as a consequence, following some of the discussions we had. And we've re-engineered now pretty much the entire organization. We're just putting the finishing touches there. It will make you confront some of the bigger challenges you have, and sometimes just a simple tweak won't actually work. And it generated a discussion across the entire IT organization, a review of the organization structure, what the drivers were for us, the lack of engagement with the business and how that had to be addressed. Because there's only so much you can do through a simulation. Yeah, it's going to open up a broad range of issues. It's going to give you a far broader perspective of some of the challenges you actually face, and give you a better understanding of what they actually are.
Absolutely, thank you, Steve. I know time has moved quickly. I wonder if we could open up the discussion to the audience and take questions from the audience. Is there any burning questions? And I'll try to stop sharing and allow people to start. If they have a question, just flag it to us and we'll take you off mute. You should be able to start your videos and unmute yourself if you want to.
An architect.
Is there anybody that got a burning question or a comment or a thought?
I have. I'm Adrian Orchard. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, so I mean, that's been a very interesting presentation. I suppose, you know, the feedback we have had from there has been from an IT perspective on how successful it was. Mm-hmm. What kind of feedback did you get from business managers? Did you manage to get senior managers involved? And you know, because obviously getting people of a senior level in the room at one time is extremely challenging. Did they feel that they got value out of this, apart from seeing that the IT were happy about it?
Yeah, Steve, you might want to comment, because we had some of the finance team involved at L&Q. Maybe you want to come in from that perspective.
We did indeed. Yeah, I'll just ask Adrian, are you coming at this from the business perspective or from
I'm coming from I'm coming from an IT management perspective.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so just repeat that question again.
So I suppose I'm guessing, you know, from that presentation, we've seen the very positive feedback from yourself, from other people about how this day went. How about the business? Did they feel they got value for money out of it, or was it just very much, yes, IT, go ahead and do something, this is going to make you happy and work better? Did they themselves feel they got much value from it?
I'll say, first off, I'm no retainer here, okay? This is my entirely impartial, independent view. But they got great value from it. I mean, the business simply hadn't been engaged. Coming from a service management background, I keep talking about processes, particularly demand management. There'd just been no engagement at all. And they simply did not appreciate what we go through when we're developing a new product or service of significance. All those things as an IT organization, we have to take into consideration. All those things that may affect the cost, the return on investment. Yeah. I mean, just the term itself, return on investment, was barely understood within the organization. And we are, fortunately, still a profit-making organization. But yeah, I found that absolutely staggering. So we were able to engage on a number of levels where you don't get time in a normal course of events during a normal day. It gave them a far better appreciation of some of the challenges we have due to that lack of engagement from the business. Since the simulations, we're far closer to them. We've got demand management working now, and we've got some good processes in place. And they were appreciative. It wasn't just, they didn't just see it as a token gesture inviting them along. They really saw that there was real benefit to be gained by getting their closer engagement and closer participation. And yeah, it was very effective from that perspective. And a lot of the initiatives now, we always have to kick ourselves and remind ourselves to ensure the business participates. And we're definitely a far stronger organization as a consequence of that.
And just to add to that, Adrian, a lot of institutions that I've worked in, you don't sometimes get the business direction and purpose and strategy, what it should be, what we're trying to achieve here, and what does that mean for technology and IT function. And what the simulation drives are is that you can only really be effective in delivering those digital IT projects if we know what the intent and the purpose of the business is and the institution. And in all the simulations I've run, that has become one of the key learning areas. And actually what happened in UIS, for example, is the IT function and the senior leaders in IT are now engaged with the university to say, look, you've been poor at telling us where we need to go and what we should be like. So can you give us that direction? And therefore we can mold ourselves to provide the service that we want to for you and your end users. So it drives that engagement. And Steve talked about, there's always that gap between technology and IT. And you have to just think about how you can bridge that. And these discussions through the simulation, the beauty of the simulation is it's fun, it's competitive. You're not poking at your own organization. You're simulating what a typical transformation goes through, and then thinking about what things that you need to fix and decisions you need to make to bridge that gap that we just talked about. Sorry, go ahead.
I would add, beware, this can generate significant change. I've already alluded to, excuse me, the new target operating model, but we've taken a far more objective look at our legacy systems, and as a consequence of which many are being re-engineered, and some of the larger ones are actually being replaced. Because of that closer engagement, there's a more full and frank discussion about some of the challenges we had, and as a consequence of which we're now evaluating a new housing association system. So this will be the first major initiative of its kind where the entire IT organization and the business are fully engaged in its development. So we're a little more optimistic about this one. We've changed our philosophy from in-house development to buy rather than build, which presents a lot of cultural change as well. And again, through the simulation, it's brought us closer together. And whereas there's been quite a bit of conflict in the past, it's been a much smoother journey for us. So it's enabled a number of conversations we weren't expecting as well.
Yeah, and if you don't have those conversations, you don't put things out on the table, and you have the right stakeholders around it, you can't solve a problem. And I think this brings some of that to bear. And you're doing it in an environment that it's not destructive to you. It's just understanding how you could do it, and it gives you time to make the right decisions. Yeah.
And let's not forget to mention it's fun. It really is good fun. Everyone really enjoyed it. Yeah, I think for us it was about 4.5 hours, wasn't it, Kuldip? I think.
Yeah, it is.
Everybody really enjoyed it, and I put them on notice before the simulation that, yeah, this wasn't one of those training sessions where you could switch your video off and catch up with your email in the background. If you did that, you're going to end up being seriously embarrassed. This demands full participation of everybody, and everyone who responded afterwards was very positive about this, and we expect to run many more going forward.
I'm just going to say there's the airline leaderboard, but what we do in the training, we have a leaderboard for the cohort who are playing the game, so they can see where they are. We anonymize it, because what we find is sometimes some of the senior leaders are not probably doing as well as some of the junior ones. So we try to keep competitive tension, but anonymize it so that, and actually, I find I have to pick on, when I pick up on the one who's done very well at the end of each quarter, it's usually somebody you wouldn't expect it to be.
Yeah. Also, one of the drivers for us, of course, overnight we'd gone from, 4,000 people working largely in 2 offices to everybody working from home. Mm-hmm. So we needed something that would work in the virtual environment. So at the time, it was probably a fairly brave decision. But the delivery was absolutely superb. And there's no discussion anymore. I'm not saying it's purely because of the simulation, but no one's talking about going back to the office environment now. It's totally agile working, and it's only 3 of my teams that have to spend any time in the office. Otherwise, the rest of the organization is working from home now. So don't underestimate. Everyone around me is talking about COVID like it's over. But we may need something for that virtual environment. Again, maybe in a not too distant future, depending on your viewpoint.
I know time's raced by, but there's other case studies. We've got University of Cambridge there with Neil, who unfortunately couldn't make it. We've got Steve, but there's a major event organizer, and there's another council that we've been working with, and there's one of UK's largest car manufacturers coming online with simulation training. So it's sector agnostic. It applies for any organization, institution that are going on a significant digital change journey, and I think it's very, very applicable for HE institutions, and that's why we wanted to bring it to this forum. And thank you for Molly and Harrison for sharing this with your network. And maybe you want to, if there's no further questions, just kind of summarize and take it from there. And if I could just finally share the final thing I wanted to do was just share my slides again so that people can see our contact details. Can you see them?
Next slide.
Yeah.
Yeah, there we go. Just a case of wrapping up and saying thank you, everybody, for coming. Obviously, I hope you found it useful. A great question there from Adrian, yourself, to get a further understanding from everything. Everybody's contact details are there, so if you would like to reach out to Kuldip or Steve or Neil, as he has mentioned, he's happy to kind of expand on the testimonial that's been there, myself and Molly, from anything that you heard in the beginning. And then we can answer any questions that you may have. But thank you very much, Kuldip. Thank you very much, Steve, for coming on board as well. It's been great to hear from you guys. It's been very insightful as well. And as we say, we've got a recording of this session. So if anybody does want it and would like to share with colleagues or anybody in the senior side, just have a view of what it really can do for the organisation, please do reach out. But apart from that, thank you very much. I hope you have a lovely weekend.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Thank you.